Certainly. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, in report of action taken during closed session, the board voted to deny the request of a complaint for the board to hear the appeal of a uniform complaint district decision and to uphold the district's decision and findings. The vote was 3-2 with Moran, Roster, Severson voting to deny the appeal request, Butler, Crumbles to approve the appeal request. Persons may speak. Now it's time for public comment period. Persons may speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda. Speakers are requested to fill out a speaker card and state their name and address before addressing the board. Individual speakers are asked to limit their comments for an item to not more than 3 minutes in order to allow everyone who wishes to speak the opportunity to do so. Groups are asked to limit their comments to a total of 3 minutes. The board shall limit the total time of public comment to 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. If additional time is needed, public comment will continue after the scheduled items. So I have a speaker card from Kristen Nielsen.
Kristen Nielsen, 3785 Highland Road, Lafayette, California. I teach at OIS. At back to school night, I've been a teacher there, by the way, for 15 years. At back to school night every year, I used to tell the parents that this was the district from which I planned to retire. However, I haven't said that in the last couple of years because it is no longer true. At one point, I was proud to work here and I felt honored as a teacher in this district. That is also no longer true. You will hear tonight of my resignation. At the end of the school year, I will pack up my room and I will leave. I will leave behind a department that I have worked with for 15 years, a curriculum that I am extremely proud of, and a green team that I started and developed into an award-winning group. You may wonder what would drive me to do this, to leave all of this behind. Before I answer that, I will let you know that I am not alone in my feelings and convictions. As word got around that I was leaving, most people, if not all, that approached me to inquire or to lament expressed that they wished they could leave as well. Their reasons were mirrors of mine. However, they have mortgages and college funds to support, neither of which I have. But if I could risk great money, I would be gone. My reason for leaving all comes down to exhaustion. I am exhausted by so many things. A superintendent that does not put his teachers first. By a team of district and school administrators that make decisions without teacher input. By a workload that is beyond manageable. By not being heard. Let me just give one example of our increased workload. In the past, OIS core teachers had to give one formal writing assessment, beyond all the other writing work that we do, and submit scores to boards. Now we have 3. If one paper takes a minimum of 15 minutes and I have 78 students, that results in about 20 hours of additional grading, times 2. In order to give us time, the district allows release dates, which means a sub in my row. This requires us to spend at least an hour to make sub plans, and the quality of instruction a sub can provide is nothing of what I can provide. Most of all, I'm exhausted by the constant fight that seems to be the standard in our district now. We as teachers in this district have to fight for what should be guaranteed to us, like our children attending Orinda schools. We have to fight to protect our students from being over-assessed. We have to fight to follow practices that we know are effective. It did not used to be like this. There's a definite them versus us mentality between the teachers and the folks here in front of me. The board used to come to visit our rooms. Now we have scheduled visits. Let me share a quick anecdote to help some of you understand how our efforts are perceived. I was awarded Teacher of the Month several years ago for a green team I created. I attended a lunch and was given a certificate. Then a year or 2 later, our superintendent, in front of my principal and another colleague, asked why I even bothered to run the green team. Questioning something like that is beyond offensive and reveals a clear lack of understanding about working with kids. I'm so sad to leave the people who have become some of my dearest friends and I will ever have, and for whom I have limitless respect. But I am also proud that as I leave, I am saying what many are afraid to say. With the exceptions of 1 or 2, the school board, thank you Sarah by the way, the school board and the superintendent are not doing right by Orinda teachers. I for one cannot fight this fight anymore, but I hope and expect that the board takes this message into consideration for the sake of my colleagues. Thank you.
I have a parent, I'm a parent of my child who's in Lafayette School District, currently at Stanley. Each one of you have probably gotten multiple emails from me for the last month since I came up here and talked. We in Lafayette, I feel, have a great school system, and I think the crux of that problem of our school district is the low funding that comes from the state. And that's the $6,400 that we get, which ranks us 47th or 50th out of the all the United States is around. It's just appalling in my regard. So I looked around a little bit, and this was 6 or 7 years ago, and I said, well, what happens with this? First thing I did is I went to my board and I said, this is not the board's decision to make. This is a state. This is a legislative effect. So who's actually out there to try to raise this bottom of 47th up, which is creating all this havoc and all this extra work on teachers and stressing out our teachers? And there's really no group that's out there. One of the groups that started up, which is Educate Our State, which is why I'm here, said it's going to be parents if anybody else is going to speak for their teachers. So one of the parents said, well, let's follow the money. She's an accountant. She took the money that we pay in our property taxes, and she followed it all the way up to the Capitol till we actually get it. And this is a huge, arduous process because it goes all over the place. And we found that with the property tax, with the Arnold Schwarzenegger's change of the vehicle license tax, that some of our money that's supposed to come directly to us is getting shifted. And it's paying some other things, and then there's a backfill, and this is what's produced our deficits that we have. Orinda only has about a 7% deficit. We have smaller, but some other districts have significant waiting for their money to arrive in. So the idea is to try to fix this and get the money directly from our property taxes into the way it should be in our coming to our schools. Doesn't cost any money, doesn't raise any taxes, just reinstates back the way it should be, our local property taxes coming up. Now, the 3 or 4 of you have already said yes. My appeal up here today is that I think if you're waiting for somebody else to tell you what to do, the CSBA, for example, or another political lobby group, I would say I've given you the information, like any other voter. Choose. I would request that you put it on the agenda so we can have a discussion about it. And if there's any other comments, I think it's best for the children. And all children. And especially, it states a comment that we think more than just what our little bubble is right here. Because, yes, we have $2.3 million that comes into us, and you guys have a big fund that comes into you. But I'd like to see all children have an equal access into education. Thank you.
I don't see any more speaker cards.
I think I can pray this I want.
Charles Shannon?
Yes.
Charles Shannon, OEA President. I just wanted to take this time. We have Teacher Appreciation Day coming up on May 14th. I just, again, want to recognize our teachers and staff who do an amazing job. And it's incredible how much time and effort we put into it. And I know that our parents are extremely grateful for what we do in our community. I just admire so much my colleagues. I work at it endlessly, and I know all of you do as well. And thank you for what you do, and I really appreciate your commitment. Things do have to change, though, because it's getting to a point where a lot of us are just falling ill, or, find that we need to make a career change. I don't think that should happen. We want our new teachers coming into the profession to feel that they can sustain being in this profession. It shouldn't be an area of continuity, and education is important for our children and our families. And we're not going to be able to do that with the way things are right now. So thank you, teachers, for standing behind me. We're going to work hard. We're going to make sure that we make this a profession where our workload is reasonable and we're getting the support that we need to do the work that is so critical to the survival of our communities. and our world. Thank you, appreciate it.
Now is now for recognitions, Employees of the Month. So first, Jennifer Dodd. Jennifer Dodd is one of those very special educators able to work magic with their students. She identifies with each group, knowing them so that she can teach them just what they need. This year, she has a combination classroom of first and second grade students, along with a supported group of special education students. When you walk into a room, you see everyone busy, each tackling the work with joy. You can never identify who's working at what level. Each student is doing what they need to do to grow and to learn. It is Jennifer Dodd's special gift that she shares with us. And we also have Mark Mortensen. Mark Mortensen's outstanding service is to be commended not only in the work he performs in the maintenance department, but in his ongoing can-do attitude and commitment to the entire district. Just recently, Mark went above and beyond to assist fellow colleagues after work hours with an unexpected shipment. Mark recognized a challenging situation for the district and jumped right in to help. This experience is just one example of the genuine positive spirit and strong work ethic Mark demonstrates every day in his interactions throughout the district. Mark greets challenges with enthusiasm and a problem-solving approach that creates win-win experiences for all those who have the opportunity to work with him. Thank you.
And if I may, can I say something here? I promised my wife I would. Because at my age, and I'm 62, and there's not too many maintenance people above my age, because we just basically wear out. I wanted to say thank you to Kathy Marshall. Very kind of her thinking about this. I certainly didn't think about it when it was being done. But I also would like to say that cooperation is such a powerful tool in not only our community, but the team, this team, the school district team. Orinda Union School District is very, very special. We've got some excellent people here. The kids are really excited about learning. And as somebody that does maintenance, it's very interesting just to observe this. And we have wonderful teachers who really make it different. So cooperation is a very important part of the equation. And if I may be totally silly, and recite the first two lines of a song that came out in the Lego movie. Everything is awesome, everything is cool when you're part of a team, and I'm glad to be a part of this team. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of these items before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Each item on the consent calendar approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. A motion on the consent calendar?
Well, I'd like to pull, I don't know if we need to pull all the warrants, the whole item, but I wanted to review warrant pack 213621 through 213660. There's a couple items there I just want to have a question on.
So we'll move. We'll move consent item F to the bottom of action items after L.
I would also like to pull something, it's item A, the minutes from the March 10th meeting.
Okay, we'll move the minutes after consent item F.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar after pulling items F and A and moving them to the end of the action.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So that was unanimous. Okay, our first action item is resolution 14-4, California Day of the Teacher. Brian.
All right, well, good evening. It is my distinct honor to announce that the California Day of the Teacher for 2014 will be Wednesday, May 14th, 2014. We really want to thank our dedicated and fantastic teachers for all the work that they do. What you have before you is a resolution to consider for adoption, recognizing the 2014 Day of the Teacher.
Okay. Any questions on this item? Open this item up to public comment. Is there any public comment items? Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none? Discussion from the board?
Well, I just would like to ask, aside from passing this resolution, if it's California Day of the Teacher, might we do anything other than that, especially to recognize our teachers on the day? I don't know if there's any kind of tradition that the district has for Day of the Teacher, but if not, it might be nice to do something for the teachers. I guess that's sort of the question to Joe. Do we ever plan extra recognition of teachers on this day other than to pass this resolution?
I think there have been some various activities off and on over the years, most of them conducted by parent groups who create some food offerings and special events to help celebrate that.
Great. Maybe we could somehow encourage or, announce to parent clubs, by the way, it's going to be California Day of the Teacher on May 14th.
Yes, we routinely do.
Great. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say thanks to our teachers. I think our teachers did a great job. So I think I speak for the whole board. So, a motion on this item?
I move that we adopt action item A, resolution 1411, California Day of the Teacher, May 14th, 2014.
Second.
Sarah? Yes. Tyson?
Aye.
Julie? Aye. Matt?
Aye.
Chris?
That motion passes as unanimous. Resolution 1412, classified school employee leave, May 19th through 23rd.
All right. For the sixth resolution, again, I have the distinct honor of announcing that the 2014 Classified School Employee Week will take place May 19th through 23rd. Our outstanding classified employees are the backbone of our district, and it's with this spirit that I present a resolution for you to consider for adoption, recognizing and honoring our classified school employees.
Questions?
I'm in support of this again. One question for Brian, which I don't know if you know the answer, but of course the classified employees are critical to our schools as well. I'm just curious why this is a week of recognition versus the Day of the Teacher is a day. Is that some historical thing or what?
Maybe the teachers could go for the year next time.
There you go.
No, this is the method from the state
Uh-huh.
coming on down, or their organization.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
great. Well, yeah,
Certainly not our decision.
yeah, I
We
didn't
would
think
extend
so.
it longer than a week and longer than a day.
Yeah. Again, I just want to say I hope the parents clubs can also recognize the classified staff as well. And I'm in support of this.
Is there any comments from the public on this item?
At Glorieta, we are honored for a week. At Glorieta, this is our week. There are activities, food items, just like Joe has said. I too wanted to mention that our classified employees are incredible. We could not do the work that we do without them. We so appreciate everything they do for us. I love our classified, and I know I speak on behalf of the rest of the teachers in Orinda. We have quality classified staff, and they are specialists. The work they do is incredible. So thank you, classified staff, and pass it on to the rest of your folks. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Great. Other discussion or comments from the board?
I move we approve resolution 1412.
Second?
Sarah?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye. So that resolution passes unanimous. Brian, some more time. Action item C, California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 320, initial proposal on collective bargaining topics.
Yes. A little background, in compliance with Government Code, Section 3547, collective bargaining proposals of a school district and the union must be sunshine prior to the commencement of negotiations. The CSEA bargaining team has requested that the following articles, Article 7, leaves, and Article 8, pay and allowances, be considered the three openers for the 2013-14 year. Financial considerations are undetermined at this time, and the recommendation is that the board conduct a public hearing regarding CSEA's proposal on collective bargaining topics.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Brian? I will open a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any further discussion from the board? Or motion?
I move that we approve the California School Employees Association, Chapter 320, initial proposal on collective bargaining topics for 2013-2014. There are two openers of leaves and pay and allowances.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimous. And then during the school district, initial proposal on collective bargaining topics for 2013 with CSEA.
Yes, and again, Government Code, Section 3547, collective bargaining proposals of the district and the union must be sunshine. The OUSD bargaining team has requested that Article 7 leaves and Article 8 pay and allowances be considered for the 2013-14. The recommendation is to conduct a public hearing regarding Article 7 and 8, the district's collective bargaining proposal.
Questions from the board on this item? I will open a public hearing. Any comments from the public on this item? Seeing that, I will close the public hearing. And any other discussion? Or no discussion, motion from the board?
I move that we adopt action item D, OUSD, initial proposal on collective bargaining topics for 2013-14 with CSEA, chapter 320, with the two articles of leaves and the pay allowances.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that was approved and unanimous. Okay, thank you, Brian. Next is agenda item E, contract with Cal Engineering and Geology for repair of Wagner Ranch playground.
This is the contract for Cal Engineering at Wagner Ranch School. The playground is slowly going downhill behind Pod 5. And this is for Cal Engineering to do the design and specifications for the project, which is putting essentially a buried retaining wall in. Well, it's going to be about 31 18-inch diameter piers. It'll be 10 foot deep in the ground on about 4 foot centers, and it'll be create a small retaining wall there to hold the build out. Cal Engineering will do the specifications, as I mentioned. They'll do all the testing, they'll answer any of the RFIs, take care of all the submittals, and they'll be there for the bid block and pre-construction meetings as well as the punch list. The proposal for their work is $19,630, and recommend that the Board of Education approve the proposal from Cal Engineering in the amount of $19,630.
Questions?
Yes, I have some questions on this. First of all, I know this item is for $19,630, but this project also seems to have a bigger cost because this was on our project list that you presented to us at the study session. And the total cost, according to this, from the study session, page 3, item 20, appears to be $141,500, unless this is included. I'm not sure. Is this included in the $140,000, or is this
No,
this
that's
is
the
an addition?
construction cost.
Okay, so by the time we add it together, that's $160,000. And my question is, why was this project prioritized out of the list? You know, this is a 3-page list from the study session, and there's only 3 items in our packet. And I'm just wondering why this one came up as opposed to any of the other ones on here.
It's one of the projects that the board approved to do. And on the schedule there, it's over a 2-year period that all those projects are to be done, and the schedule is there with it.
Right.
Which ones will be done this year and which ones will be done next year.
Oh, okay, right, okay. Well, so this is, you said 31 piers for the retaining wall and the fence. And then on here, it says remove and replace existing asphalt. So I assume that's part of the playground that's close to the fence?
Right, the part that's cracking, it's about 12 to 18 feet away from the existing fence. That'll have to be removed, and then the piers will be put in. Also, a new fence will be put up because that one's leaning pretty bad. And also, the schools requested that we put a 20-foot high net fence there to keep the balls from going over down the fence into the poison open creek area. And then on top of that, there'll be a small green belt between the new asphalt and the school. The principal said there's no shade in that area or a cooling place for kids to sit. It's all blacktop over there.
So there's only 3 pages in our packet. So if they are planning to do all that, did you get some additional documents itemizing what they, what this consultant intends to do this project, or?
Yes, we have itemized thing from the consultant, but we won't really have anything itemized until we get bids on the project, until he draws the specifications up for it. And that's what this is for, is to draw the specifications up.
And then also, in the description here, it says, remove and replace existing asphalt, install new AC paving, install green belt. That sounds good, but I'm not sure exactly where that is. Fence and concrete piers at East Playground. So what is the green belt that's referenced there?
That's what I referenced earlier. It'll be between the Pod 5 and the new section of asphalt we'll put in. It's an area maybe 20 feet wide, and I think it's about 80 or 90 feet long. And there'll be a grass area there between the building and that asphalt area. Because I think in the future, the Parents Club is looking at putting a shade structure back there.
Well, okay, that sounds good. But I'll have some other comments later. That's all my questions for right now.
Just for a point of clarification, And what I heard Sarah say was it would be at 141 plus the architect's fees. What I show here on page 3 is 125 approximate construction costs with an estimation of 11.5 for architects and consultant fees to get to that total of 141. So I think this 19,630 is a true number based on that 11,500.
Yeah, but I don't believe that this is included in the architect's fees.
It says architects and consultant fees. They're designing, right? I mean, I assume, what other architect's fees will there be?
There shouldn't be the architect fees on here at all. Because Cal Engineering is the only one doing the design package.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, well, so to follow on that, the 5,000 in inspections and that, was that rolled into the scope of the Cal Engineering proposal as well? So it's really the 11.5 plus 5 is now 19. Is that fair? Well, so I guess the first thing yet I wanted to, and it's, I guess it's a little, the question's backwards, but the warrant, that's the reason I pulled the warrant, and I apologize I didn't get a chance to get an email out today. It's been a busy day. But Cal Engineering and Geology was paid, or will be paid, or is in the process of being paid. Page, I think it's 34 of the packet, and it says Wagner Ranch site check. Is that redundant to anything that we're approving now, if we approve this contract? Or is that a separate issue that was?
We had Cal Engineering come out and do some pre-look at that and the slide up on the hill, which is another one we're going to look at tonight. So they've already put in some hours there looking at those projects for us.
So the 897 has to do with either that water issue up top as well as maybe
correct
something in this contract. So we're actualizing a contract to pay something that they've already billed us for. I just want to, it seems, and I know you're moving fast. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm on the page that I guess I genuinely would like, if we're going to approve a contract, that we approve it and then get a bill. Just thinking out loud, but
right.
I guess going to the scope, I guess the biggest thing that concerns me as a board member that was, and I'd welcome Matt's input too, in all of the site, kind of facility-minded outreach that we did, call it end of last year, beginning of this year, and what we've reported to the board. One of the biggest things that was stated was keep the students in mind, right? And I know how much work it is to have piers in the ground and new asphalt and a new fence. But honestly, it's a lot of money, it feels like, that the students, their only benefit may be the shade aspect, that what I'm hearing now is actually maybe something that happens later. And so I guess my concern as a board member is, I would more envision if we're going to totally whole hog sink piers into the ground, that we would actually think about what can those piers support besides just the ground. If there is indeed some shade thing that's going to happen later, so we're not incurring a whole other engineering round, design round, and what have you. That we think about the end goal here is, there's two. There's one, to stabilize, and I get that. Totally understand it. The other is, I know the kids need shade out there. I absolutely, I've worn a hat on that playground many times because of it. It's hot. So I'd be hesitant personally to move forward with a design that isn't actually targeting the end goal for, especially within the vicinity of this scope of work, that is, or at least understand how we're going to get there. Because I don't want to have this all installed and then a year later have another project that now we have to add more piers, or, I mean, so that's my concern, is understanding what this design entails. And if it's purely the, call it settlement improvement, right? Or if there's something baked in that I'm not clear on.
The piers are also going to hold the 20-foot poles for the netting also.
Right,
Those
fence.
So there is a two-part, part of those piers, if you want to say that. The shade is something that the school's been talking about for a long time, and I don't know when they're going to have the money to do that.
My understanding, Tyson, the shade was it'd be a lot closer to Pod 5.
They want it right next to the building.
That we're not talking about a playground shade structure.
Yeah, I don't know, right.
We're talking about something nice and tight to the building, near what we're talking about with this
So the
green belt.
green belt is really just for aesthetic purposes?
No, it's because in Pod 5, you open the door to get out to that playground and the heat just hits you. And so Janice's thought and other people's thought is, let's not have asphalt come straight up to that door. It's actually a little concrete pad, probably a 4x4 pad, and then you hit black asphalt. And then asphalt is just coming straight into those classrooms. So the thought is, put in a little, correct me if I'm wrong, the thought is put in a little green belt and give yourself a little insulation from the oppressive heat that's hitting those buildings.
Well, that sounds good, having some green and having a shade structure sounds good. I'm still wondering, I counted up how many projects we have listed for summer 2014, and there's 22 projects. And I don't actually remember us officially voting on all these projects. I think we just indicated, yes, we could continue to talk about them in a more vague way, but I don't feel that this particular project is a priority over the other 20, and I don't know how this one got to be the first one we're looking at for $160,000.
I think it's probably more just like when things, like contracts are ready and come in, we'll just be seeing an onslaught of contracts and
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Ed just said something about, well, he doesn't know where the money will come from for a shade structure. Why are we prioritizing this project, for example, over a shade structure? Are we assuming the Parents Club is going to pay for that or what? Because there's certain things, as Tyson said, the task force prioritized kids, the learning environment, the environment at the schools in terms of the facility, and there's certain things that, you know, are more low cost and actually improve the kids' experience as opposed to something like this. And, you know, I don't know, I just have concerns about why this project is prioritized when we have so many others. And I know you said they will come in as they come in, but they're not all on this list. There's all the other projects that are on the other list that isn't part of this list that came to us in the Friday email, and that includes door locks and new doors, or maybe it's not door locks, it's doors, replacement doors in some of the schools. And I'm not sure why those aren't on this list. I think the last time we talked about these different lists was, you know, all at once with all the lists together was, I don't know if it was June or if there was one other time after June, but we didn't look at that other list in the study session. So I have concerns about why, you know, about the process part of this. Maybe I'm jumping too far ahead. Stop.
Everything on the other list was part of the main list during the study session for the facilities task force. They were all on there, and the ones that made the priority list are the ones that the board gave the approval for to look at to do now. The other
Well,
list,
this is the list from the study session. So this is all, and this one is called priority facility projects.
and those were all approved as a task force.
Okay, but the task force didn't attach this to their document. The doors, what I was saying is the doors are not on this list. They're on the other list.
So that other list was incorporated with that list during the task force, and that priority list is what came out of the task force.
Okay, well, when the task force reported to us, we didn't go back and look at both lists and decide, yes, do we want to just go with this list, or was there anything on the other list, or whatever. We didn't have that discussion, we just talked about the one-page document that they presented. So that could be part of the process gap that I'm feeling.
Is there any comments from the public on this item?
So I guess to echo the earlier statement on I get the heat island, like Matt was describing the basic black cookie sheet that's out there heating up when you walk outside. I know that even if you address that, call it lawn, right, you put some kind of a lawn area out there, that there's still no shade in sight. I mean, there just isn't. So it's kind of twofold. One is just being beat down by the sun while you're playing, even if you're on the ball field, right? It's still hot over on those ball fields on the, call it the bookends of the school year. August and then flipping all the way back to May, June. So I want to make sure that, obviously shade can be accomplished in other ways, trees, and I know that then you got to be concerned about kids climbing them. So there's, at least I know my kids for sure. So I guess I want to understand, if the intent, this seems like it's really just to address this settlement issue that's going on and patch that back. Are we going to see then, in order to accomplish, because I don't think it's on a list anywhere then, is what is our exposure and why couldn't these folks incorporate at least, call it this green area within their work? Because I imagine that would help from a drainage standpoint anyway, knowing what I know. If you put some kind of green area, you're going to water it. You want to then drain it properly so you're not surcharging your piers that you just installed.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do, I guess, to bring this, before we just marshal through this thing down the road, what can we do to make sure that, one, we know the exposures aboard for this other thought, whether it's shade, whether it's green, whether it's 20 feet by 20 feet, whether it's 100 feet. I mean, I have no knowledge of how that plan and this plan.
Well, if you don't address the hill going down the hill first, you're gonna be replacing that blacktop every year like we have been in the last 20 years that I've been here. But every other year, we're replacing that section of blacktop because it cracks and it's a big safety hazard down there for the kids. So that was my thought, is get the hill repaired, stop it from sliding down the hill, get it level, and go from there.
And I see that represented here. I guess I'm more thinking of, if you stabilize it, there's a bunch of different ways, and if you stabilize it with an end master plan in mind of what you want to do over there, whether it's an above-grade structure, or it's trees, or it's lawn, or a swale that basically you've now created, right? I mean, I'm just thinking of all the downstream, because there's going to be drainage potentials that you want to design into this, right?
That's included in there, to tie into the existing storm drains that are there. To slope it so it goes each way instead of running off the end of the existing machine.
So it's hard to have to vote on this without knowing that and seeing what the plan is. It would be nice to have at least a little sketch or something.
I mean, is it possible to get, I mean, it seems like we have a really good relationship with these guys and gals. I'm sure there's at least a few. Is it possible to get kind of what their assumption schematically is to us?
Sure.
I mean, I guess, as an individual board member, my concern is we're going to approve this, it'll come out to be something, and then there'll be folks going, well, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot, it's 6 figures at the end of the day. It's a good chunk of money. Or it may not, I mean, this may not be the extent of what is really needed too, I don't know.
But all this is this $19,000
This
Yeah.
is 19 to design what is,
Design the
right,
thing that we're gonna,
or,
Yeah.
more money to
Cost.
construct.
right, or portions thereof is, I guess, the bigger issue. I want to make sure that if a designer goes full throttle and goes to this end game, it'd be nice to know that that concept, whatever it is clear between them, the site, us as a board, because at the end date, that concept represents $125,000 or more if there's other
Yeah.
scope.
Yeah, you can't look at it like it's $19,000, because that's just the beginning, and then it's $125,000. And once you approve the contract for $19,000, you're kind of committing that we're gonna do the project. And it's just a matter of, you know, the details of, is it really 125 or not, you know, and exactly what the details of the drawings are.
Well, we already approved the project, we're just putting on this portion of the actual contract.
Well, what was the date that we actually approved the project, Julie?
Sarah, I don't know off the top of my head, but I know we approved it. I
Well,
remember.
no, that was my point earlier. I don't think we,
But we
you know,
did.
We did.
I'm sorry you don't remember, but we did. We approved
well, I
everything
don't
on this
remember
list.
approving these projects and not approving the other things, any of the other things that were on the other list and deciding, you know, I mean, you know, I don't think it was that clear.
So
Well,
I'm still focused on this one
yeah, go ahead.
right now, and I hear what you're saying, Julie, and I know that because I'm involved in this kind of business, that I end up downstream, said contractor comes up with a bid for $125,000. That would be awesome. If it grabbed everything that the initial assumptions were, right? And as in this instance, call it an owner's capacity, right? To provide a direction that's truly going to get the district what they need or what they assume they need, as opposed to, I mean, the worst thing that I've seen time and time again in call it construction design, the whole 9 yards, is a designer goes and does what they do, and it either falls short of the true assumption, or it goes too far, and now it costs a lot more, and then you have to pay another 10 to get them to unwind something. And so I would love to understand the concept, even if it's just a napkin sketch, I mean.
Can't we just give direction that we want it with the idea that there would be place for shade in some format to be decided by the site at a later date, you know, on that green belt? I mean,
Well, whether it's shade, I think we can say whatever we want to say. I just don't know if it's going to cost $19,630. Right, that's my, I guess, they've listed
Because you're saying
basically,
maybe they would do some preliminary design work for that structure
they might,
as opposed to.
or it might take a few more hours for said, say, project engineer, or senior engineer, or a landscape architect who's not listed, or something. I mean, there may be some other facet to it that we're not addressing. This is a very descriptive recipe of how many hours doing different things. And so you know, they're engineers, I get it. They're gonna follow this plan, they're gonna marshal down, so I'm trying to make sure that we're, if they marshal with this proposal as approved, do we get
What we
this
want.
cohesive deal or not? I mean,
No, the question is, do we get what we want? This is a list of hours and the costs, and it doesn't tell us what they're gonna do. The only thing we have is this little paragraph, and what we heard from Ed, and what's missing is any kind of drawing. And that's what I would, you know, would wanna see for something, for a project like this. Sorry to interrupt you, Tyson.
that's okay.
So maybe, Ed, can you just reframe what our grand scheme is for this item?
Well, the project that was approved was just to fix the slope. So that's what I gotta do.
Okay.
And if you're gonna want schematics and drawings for every project, we're not gonna get it done this summer.
Well, when you say fix the slope, what exactly are you
The
talking
slope
about?
is sliding.
The
I know the slope is
right
sliding.
now,
There's a
the
fence.
asphalt is cracked, so there's a 140-foot long crack on the playground,
Mhm.
which happens almost every year. So we're gonna take that out. We're gonna drive piers in at 4 feet apart and create a head wall there, and that'll be buried. And in those piers, I don't know how many of them, but the 20-foot poles will be in there that will support the net for the balls will go with the fence. And then we'll replace the fence along there too, because it's tilting over going down the creek. At the same time, part of the asphalt that we pull out will be green belt will be put in. And then below that green belt, between that and the fence, there'll be asphalt placed in there.
And so what are you gonna do about drainage between the green and the asphalt?
When the asphalt's put in, it'll be graded, so one place goes to the storm drain or the DI down in the center of the playground, and the other one goes towards the batting cages where there's a huge DI there. And that'll keep it from running off the side and going down the hill.
So you're gonna have irrigation for the green area, and then you're gonna have like a drain right there to catch the water, so it doesn't start just flowing out overflowing out of the asphalt.
And so to me, it sounds like,
So the scope, I guess to answer my question, right? The scope that I'm hearing is, this gets us the cutoff wall, the low grade, supporting said new fence, ball netting combo, right, for 100 and some odd feet along the property. It gets us the design showing repavement in plan, addressing the drainage for any of that area. And these drawings would then show, because I know how much when you saw cut back and you got, they're gonna trash a portion of AC. So there's a benefit to this design to show the green space. So are you envisioning that this, although it doesn't state the green space on this, is that something that's part of the document that comes to us for the 19-630?
Right, but we got the bid on how the green space and everything included in it.
So the only real question then outstanding is, for said 100 and some odd feet by whatever this green space is the shade trees, is it some future awning of some kind, surround, is what?
My understanding is future Parents Club provided awning of some sort, shade structure.
Has anyone talked to the Parents Club about that? Because those things can be expensive, and I don't know if they budgeted for it.
I guess I would be in favor of moving forward with this proposal.
Well, I have one more question for Ed. You said the only question is about the lawn or something, but, you know, I mean, my dad was an engineer, and I grew up looking at all this stuff, and I know it matters how you replace the asphalt, how you replace, you know, it could end up just cracking again if you don't do it right, because that looks like it's just fill. And so what, other than pulling up that asphalt and replacing it, you know, how much are they gonna put gravel down, how, you know, what's the details of that is what I wanna know, because you could spend this much money, and then it could, you know, if you didn't do it well enough or do it right, it can be cracking again.
So
And
Sarah, I
that's
hear.
what we're paying our GM for. They do all the asphalt specifications for the projects.
So what
Okay,
I
so
hear,
they
what I
have
hear in
this-
your question,
they
to
haven't
interject,
stated
if I could, what I hear in your question isn't so much to go to the nth degree of reviewing the details, because then the board's on the hook for if they're good or not. It's more what, for this price, what are we buying for the district in terms of performance of their design? Like, how long is it gonna last? That's more, to me, that's the inherent question is, how long is this fix gonna work? Or be guaranteed by the designers?
Well, you're assuming that we should do it. I'm just saying, if we do it, I just wanna say we wanna make sure we're doing it right, so it's not just gonna crack again.
I think that's what we pay an engineer to do.
What'd you say?
I think that's what we pay an engineer to do, got those people. And decide how many piers and where to put the piers and how deep the piers and all those sorts of
Yeah,
issues.
but, you know, I mean,
And that's what we're paying 19,000 for, if we're gonna pay, as opposed to just having someone else just pour a bunch of asphalt out there.
yeah.
So, I guess I would be in favor of moving forward with this if we have a motion. We've had some party discussion.
I move that we approve action item E, contract with Cal Engineering and Geology School Fair with
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. I would like to say for the record, I'm just not voting for this because I don't feel there's enough information here and that we've done an adequate job prioritizing. Thank you.
So that was approved 4-1 with voting names. Okay, contract, action item F, contract with HY Architects for re-roofing project at Wagner Ranch.
This is for the, for HY Architects for roofing at Wagner Ranch, Delray, and Elias. And it's all the building roofs at Wagner Ranch, and it's the breezeway roofs at Delray and Elias. These projects will require drawings and specifications for the roofs. HY Architects has done all of our modernization drawings in the past. They know our schools very well. And so they seem like a good choice for this project. The estimated cost for this roofing project is about $1.5 million. And the architect's proposal is about $49,000. Or is $49,000. And the recommendation is the board approves the proposal for HY Architects. And also in the architect's proposal in paragraph 1, they have a typo there. It's supposed to be buildings 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, and they have 3, 4, 5, and 7.
Okay, so any questions?
Ed, do you anticipate significant reimbursables?
No, usually HY Architects is very good on that. They have most of our drawings anyway.
Right. So we're talking about mailing and photocopying,
It shouldn't be too
basic stuff. Thank you.
And can you identify from the priority facility projects list, which we have in the study session, which items on that list are included?
I didn't bring that list.
You bring
So
that?
we know it's 24, right?
Well, now that's OAS. I thought this was just at Wagner Ranch.
This is Wagner, OAS, and Del Rey.
It's the breezeway roofs at OIS, the breezeway roofs at Del Rey, and the main roofs at Wagner Ranch.
That's why there's pictures of all 3 schools on
Yeah, it has
Is
maps
it
of
the
each
repair,
one.
replace hallway roof canopies at Del Rey?
No, the canopy is the center section down the hallway.
Okay. So the 3, okay, so 3, 24.
How about 14? No Sleepy Hollow.
Right.
3, 24, so is that the repair and replace roofs on all buildings at Wagner?
Yes.
Yes. So 3, 18.
And I apologize if I missed it, but
Is it on this list?
on the Del Rey, where they come together and it's a kind of a clear story, that's not included the design in that.
I don't think that's.
No, this is just the breezeway.
Just the breeze.
Out in front of the office, down by the kindergarten, over towards the multi-purpose
The
room,
numbers.
and then between the upper and lower grade wings.
And the 49,000, is that included in the architect's fees?
That is the architect's fee.
So it's already a line item in our master list?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have standard rates with HY, have they been negotiated recently, or are we going off? Is this just, like, will they submit bills with a rate structure we're aware of, or is it just because it says lump sum, they're just gonna hit us for a percentage and call it good, or what's your expectation?
Their
from it?
building's very good, very itemized when it comes in. And the rates have always been very compatible throughout the years.
But this proposal is more of a, at this point, a lump sum for the design versus any kind of ongoing exposure that's more hourly or not to exceed. Is that, like, we write this, they're expecting 49K based on the scope of work, regardless if they get it done faster, easier, what have you, right?
Okay, is there any comments from the public on this item? Are there comments from the board?
Well, I just have a question for Julie. Did you figure out which 3 items on
Yeah,
here?
3 on
Number
the, on
three?
this, are you on this list?
Yeah.
3, 18, and 24.
3, 18, and 24. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on this item?
I move that we approve a contract with HY Architects for re-roofing projects.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, action item G, contract with Pacific Coast General Engineering for repair of Wagner Hillside.
So this is another project at Wagner. It's up on the hill as you drive out the exit ramp to the right. It's where the main water comes in from the street. And that's where our backflow devices and our main water valves are for the school. This hill is also sliding and starting to engage into the main water valves and backflow system. So this project is to take out this little slide behind it. Also to remove a little tree that's starting to lift one of the water lines. And then compact it all and put in a keystone type block wall behind it. Backfill it with gravel and put drains in it so it doesn't move again. And so we have a nice secure area for the water main there at the school. And that water main has broken a couple of times since I've been here in the last 20 years. So hopefully this will stop it from moving and leaking like it is now. The prices, we had two bids on it. One was for Ransom for $13,750, and one was from Pacific Coast for $11,812. And the recommendation is that the board approve the proposal from Pacific Coast for $11,812.
Questions?
Well, it would make sense to take the lower bid, but I'm trying to remember, do we have to take the lower bid, or when do we, what's the rule on that?
If it's over 15,000, then it has to go to a public bid.
Mhm.
And since this isn't over 15,000,
Mhm.
we can take either bid we want.
Okay.
And I've worked with both of these contractors, they're both very good.
Quick question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So is all the, I'm sure we've done due diligence if we've been replacing these lines for a while, but none of this is public right-of-way, East Bay Mud's problem,
No, it's all ours.
somebody else besides us?
No, above it is the cities, but the county, right where that is, unfortunately, is ours.
No, I mean, if you drive down the dam road, there's several like the, very nicely put it, there's a lot of drainage issues along that entire, it's a shame that, well, so that being said, I mean, they fixed this, they put in a little keystone retaining wall, we put in some drainage, but Orinda soil is not. It seems to me that that's gonna be a minor fix, and then we're gonna do it again at some later date. Has that been discussed with these guys? I mean, how long are they guaranteeing it, or are they just doing what we're asking and walk away?
No, we had Cal Engineering look at this one also, and this has been moving slowly for the last 20 years. It's not a real fast slide. It's not something that's real mushy up there. So their thought is that if we do this repair, it should last for quite a while, at the speed that hill does move.
So Cal Engineering's design will be reflected in this price?
No,
Or by this price, or is this more of a design build?
it's design build.
Did you find out whose responsibility it is? Siri, whose problem is this? Okay, so,
We didn't get it,
no.
shockingly.
All right, I mean, that whole slope, seeing it many times, there's a lot more issues than just in our water meter, so.
Yeah. This is just a very small area. It's not the slope into the parking lot or anything like that.
And are, I guess, is permitting included in this and going through all that, or is that gonna be separate fees that we need to?
We don't need any permits for this one.
We don't need, so East Bay Mud, we're doing it all around their work, so they're not having to,
Yeah, because we're not shutting off any water, we're not changing any piping, we're just clearing out the area behind it and securing it, building a retaining wall.
that's good.
Any comments from the public on this item? Any other comments from the board or motion?
I'll move that we approve the Pacific Coast General Engineering. Wait, where'd it go? Item G, contract with Pacific Coast General Engineering, repair for Wagner and hillside.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That was unanimous and passed. Okay, at number H, or letter H, contract with Site Works Construction for repair of Gloria site.
Yes, this is for the slide at Gloria. We did have to come off the public bid on this. We had a range of bids from $178,950 to $115,709. And Site Works was the low bidder at $115,709.21. Let's see, we had a Cal Engineering did the specs for this. They did the sidewalk, they did the pre-bid conference. We had the mandatory walkthrough there at Gloria, so all the bidders bid on apples to apples. And like I say, the low bidder was Site Works at $115,709.21. And the recommendation is the board approve the contract with, how come that great, I'm sorry, here at the bottom, there should say Site Works. Sorry. For $118,985.
So it really should be Site Works
And that's wrong too, it should be,
for 115,
for some reason I put the second highest bidder in the bottom.
That happens.
It should be.
That was one of my questions.
It should be Site Works.
It's coming.
I apologize.
It's all right, there could be a reason, so.
but he has been the Site Works contract in the
I know.
thing.
Okay,
So
so
it's
they-
Site Works for $115,709.21.
So the recommendation.
Okay. Okay.
And is there a corresponding item in our most recent proposal, or do we have to go back to an earlier? I'm just trying to follow along on our priority facility projects, because that was like our approved list, and I don't know.
We approved this, we
We
approved
did
it.
approve.
So this was,
Like,
this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not
It's
on
not on
this
the priority.
list.
But this one, I think it's like one step ahead of the playground one, where we previously had approved the drawings for the engineer to, to determine
Yes.
the drawings of the project. And now it's coming back with these bids. So my question here is similar to before. So what we have here is, a few pages that all has to do with their cost estimates and all that, but could you tell me a little more about the project? I'm familiar with it, I can see the plastic on the hill, but exactly what they're going to do.
Roughly they, I don't know how to put this easily, roughly they pull all the dirt out that's bad, they cut a keyway into the hill, then they compact it in separate lifts until it's compacted up to 90% compaction. And then over the top they put it's like a water barrier so the water doesn't come flying down the hill. I can't think of the words right now.
A V-ditch, or is it a?
Yeah.
They're repairing the V-ditch at the top, but they also put the batting across the top of the hill. So for the first year, that nothing can run down the slope of the hill. So the V-ditch will be repaired. They're also tying in the end of that V-ditch into a storm drain to an existing drain down below. But the majority of the work is to remove the old muddy, sliding dirt and put in some engineered fill on the hillside.
address with the houses above? Remember there was some drainage from those properties coming down?
Yeah, I went up and walked the slope, and there's really only one house that has a very small pipe drain on our property. The other ones are pretty much taking it over towards the creek and away from the hillside. But that little pipe is not what's causing the problem. There's some underground spring work there as well, but we found out one with the portal in. So that hill has a few issues, and that's why it's taken this big project to stabilize it.
So are the engineers confident that if, once this project is done, that it will
Yes.
hold the hill? Because I think they did work on it, someone did work on that hill before.
They did the lower section.
Ah.
Is any part of this budget planting of the hill?
No, I don't think hydroseeding or anything is included. I can double check, but I don't believe it's in there.
So I'm just thinking it's a large space to stare at, so I mean,
Yeah.
if plants can do wonders over years in terms of continuing the stabilization in the future.
Yeah, even just hydroseeding.
I mean, it may not be in this, right? And there may be initial, sounds like a SWIP season, right? If they do this summer, then the rainy season comes, that, they're gonna maintain it to some degree with wattles or
Right.
some kind of diversion plan. But I guess understanding the more permanent aesthetic fix too, since people are looking at that hill from almost anywhere on campus, let alone neighbors, right? What the overall, yes,
Anything would be
agreed.
better
Coyote
than
brush
black
next to
plastic.
Right, and maybe the answer is plant more coyote brush, I don't, but I'm just wondering if that's, I guess, a
No,
piece of it.
hydroseeding would be a good idea. You know, just.
Yeah, wildflowers would be nice.
Yeah,
for sure.
wildflowers would be great.
My only question, I guess, outside of this is just to kind of understand a little more of the process, because I think, was this entirely a district driven, like, was this all ed process, or was there, our construction manager involved? I mean, can you walk me through how we got this bid out, so I understand what transpired? And if it's gonna be different moving forward, or if this one was,
Yeah, so the hill slid, then I called in Cal Engineering to give us an idea of what's going on up there. They came in and they did borings on the hill, did an analysis on the dirt. Then we hired them to create a spec for a project there. And they actually had they gave us two options. We could have done a little smaller option up there, but they didn't feel comfortable saying that, okay, if we do that small option, it's going to take care of your problem. And that's why we went to the larger scale one. Because that top section is all filled, and so they want to take all that fill out and put it in the property. So once they have the spec put together, we went out to do it.
so the bid process, these bids came in, and was there kind of a sit-down bid review of the lowest few to make sure they have it, or is it purely you have plans and specs and, hard bid and away we go, so that no one can do any wiggle room? I mean, whether you took the low or the high, right? They all have the same,
Well, we have to take the low unless we can throw them out for a good reason.
and that's kind of where I'm going. What's
Yeah.
the,
And I did talk to Cal Engineering. We looked at the low three bids. And Siteworks out of those low three was a very good one they worked with before. They've had a very good rapport with them. They said their work is very good. So before we had a different company do the lower section, and they were also a very good company. And they were engineered soil repairs. Cal Engineering had also worked with them and gave them a very high score as well.
and when's this work?
This summer.
That's all I have.
Okay, is there any comments from the public on this item? Any further comments?
I move that we approve action item purchase contract with Site Works Inspection Inc. for repair of Orinda hillside.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, action item I, RGM Project Management Agreement for the new district office.
This was brought back as per the board. RGM came to us previously with a proposal to do all the project management for all of these projects. And it was kind of open-ended, so you asked if we bring back a closed-ended type, like a retainer type proposal from them, RGM, and that's what we've done. RGM has given us a proposal not to exceed $64,000. And that is, their proposal is included in these documents. And the recommendation is to the board to approve the agreement for $64,000. And this agreement was put together by our legal counsel. And our GM has agreed to it.
Okay, thanks for bringing it back to us.
I'm confused. So this is, what I wrote was, because this says this for the new district office, and the contract talks about the district office. That, I mean, we're almost moving in there, right? So the thing that I thought that we were, what you just said.
Did I say this is district office?
No, well, that's what it says in, well, it is, Exhibit B, but it's also in the contract.
The page that says Exhibit B.
So that's what it
refers
said
to
district
the-
office. If I didn't say that, I'm sorry. I'm talking about all the other projects.
But I thought what we were looking at with RGM was that open-ended agreement we had on the project. I guess I'm
It was.
confused now.
It was, no, you're right, that's what we were looking at before, and then I think Ed went on and got a more specific thing, because that's what we wanted, we didn't want it completely open-ended.
But I feel like we're talking about two different things. One was to do the district office project management, which I thought was already resolved and well in process. And then I thought there was a discussion about a sort of an open-ended agreement with relation to these
Other projects.
facilities projects, not having to do with the district office, but having to do with our facilities in general, and that was where we had asked for more clarification. So now I'm not clear on what this contract is for.
Well, I
This
thought
feels,
it was both.
this feels to me like this is just a refined version of the one we already marshaled forward with in terms of managing this corner shell interface and the TI, and that's what this feels
We
like.
already have that agreement in place, but we're moving in and on.
You did, but we didn't approve it.
So we never approved the agreement.
You
And then to do, okay.
approved it, but you wanted it,
More
so it wasn't
specific.
open in at the end of the way it was presented before, it was, it didn't have a not to exceed limit on
Right, it was like a.
And the schedule wasn't-
it. Right.
I don't think it
It
was-
just
So
gave
this
costs
is
of all
just
their
for the
people.
tenant improvements portion of the agreement and has a not to exceed.
Right.
And our portion of the shell responsibilities, because there's a piece of that that's
Correct.
percentage driven.
Mhm.
Okay.
But this doesn't have a time limit or something, right?
Hasn't work already been going on in this, like under this?
We're doing a walkthrough on Thursday.
Okay, so we were basically working without a set agreement, or is this modifying
It's just modifying what
the
we have.
existing agreement? Thank you.
So once we move in the district office and that project's done, is this still in effect? Does this cover other projects, or is it just that?
Just that project.
Oh, okay.
They'd have to come, the
They'd
district
have
would
to
have
come
to come to the board if there was said, like say we spent 60 and there's still $4,000 and they wanted to apply that $4,000 to something else, we would have to ratify that,
Mhm.
change this, right? So this will just close out once, call it punch list, move in, occupancy,
Correct.
potential.
comments from the public on this item? Okay. Other questions on the board?
Do you know how much we anticipate, since we probably spent a portion of the 64? Do we know if we're tracking well or not, or?
We're tracking good, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the RGM project management agreement for new district office.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved? Unanimous. Okay, Ed, one more for you. Item J, change orders for the new district office.
Have Brian come up with help.
I'm ready for all this.
So, presented before you is the change orders for the new district office. We're in very good shape on these. We're only at 1.92% the cost of the change orders, which is very good for a project. The total change orders paid by the district today is $17,529.88. And there are 35,500 in other change orders that we're still negotiating with the contractor. And so we're under our $77,000 contingency money. It's in the guaranteed maximum price. So there's no extra cost to the district so far in change orders. And it's recommended that the board approve the change orders for the district office.
Questions from the board?
So are you asking, I guess, what are we doing that we approve all the change orders on this log? Or we only approve those that we're at some level resolved and there's a portion paid piece, or what are we? Because I gotta say, I'll just put it out there that I've never had an owner approve a log and just wholesale allow me to just bill 57 or 17 or whatever the portion thereof without any backup. So I'm kind of curious as to what the expectation here is.
Since it was under the contingency, I just wanted to make you aware of these because there was really no cost to approve. But if you wanted to, just approve the ones in the paid column, and then I'll bring back the negotiation ones the next meeting. I'm sure we'll have them resolved by then.
It almost feels more like an information item. We don't, not like big action.
So, yeah, it sort of falls in a bit of a gray area because technically, you know, the building was already approved and now there's some changes and they're within budget. And so we want to make sure that the board is aware of the changes, basically. And so, you know, since it's within the budget, it's not over the budget, that falls into that area. Well, what do you really need to do? Well, I think it's helpful that, you know that the building is being completed, but it's slightly different based on these little change orders here. So it's probably a technicality, that's all. And as I said, we had hoped by the time that we brought this forward, you know, kind of waited as far as we could, that the other ones would be resolved, but they're still going back and forth on them, so. Ones that have been resolved, obviously you see here, you're basically acknowledging that, yeah, okay, we know there's some modifications that have been made to the original.
So I'll just offer up, kind of penciling through these. Some of them make sense. They're a change that looks like it was requested as a result of something, for instance, number 6, right? We needed access, so we asked for it, so it wasn't pretty straightforward. It's change in scope. Fees from Contra Costa, I mean, those are inherently, you know, an owner responsibility the way I understood the contract, so that's pretty slam dunk. The gates for emergency, that kind of starts to get a little interesting because I would hope an architect would have factored that in to some degree. I guess the generator as a whole, seeing the Bay Area air quality, that we're responsible for that application, and that's on this log, I guess I would have hoped that that would have been forecasted in the fee since we had a generator, but I get it, it was a miss. The ones that say delay, I guess, I mean, the way I read that is it's almost, I don't know who typed this, I guess that's one question I have. But when these delays are written for information, it seems like that's a delay on KTGY, right?
Those are the ones that we're battling, all the ones that say delay.
Those are under
Right.
negotiation.
So whose log is, who produced this log? Who tracks this?
Huff Construction.
Okay. So why is this not Pulte's issue?
That's what we're battling right now. That's why they aren't in the other column. That's why they're still under negotiation.
Because technically, I look at this, cost for additional square footage of waterproofing, I mean, you know.
Well, the extra waterproofing
Pulte-
is because we took the crawl space and made it into a storage facility. And that crawl space didn't have any waterproofing on it originally. So when we made it a storage room, now they've waterproofed the outside of it.
Doesn't the backside of the foundation that's in place that is one of those walls have waterproofing on it?
Yes, but where the crawl space was, the waterproofing was only X feet off the ground, and now it's another 6, 7 feet off the ground waterproofing.
I guess the devil's in the details there.
Mhm.
Well, I'm trying to understand, I guess, from a process standpoint, because it feels like if this is Huff's list, they should be going to Pulte, since Pulte is going to build the building for us, and we pay a percentage thereof. And then, as a board, if Pulte, since we have an agreement with them, wants to come to us to spend down some of this, then wouldn't we hear from them after Ed's recommended, as opposed to we take a vote and have some culpability and ratifying these ahead of.
The ones that we've already paid.
I guess I'm even saying that we approved a GMP with Pulte, but this is Huff's log. Technically, Pulte needs to manage Huff. We don't manage Huff.
Well, I say it's Huff's log, but this is the, this is after Huff, Pulte, and the district has negotiated on it, and then this is the log that came out of all those meetings.
I totally hear that, and I'm not refuting that at all. I guess what I'm saying is, for me as an individual board member to say, I'm gonna pay $2,451.64 for item 11, even if I asked for a lunchroom and want an exhaust fan and all these good things, I need to see some backup. I feel so far removed from this that in my right mind, I can't say, yes, that's what the bill should be. I mean, are you following what, because we haven't reviewed any of the contracts with any of the subcontractors to know what they truly provided in their plans.
So don't we pay the construction manager to do that for us? In other words, isn't it out of mine and your job to get into the details because we're paying somebody to do that for us?
It is if that's how this is being presented, and right now it feels like Huff is throwing this at the district, and then now it's on the board's shoulders without someone else weighing in between, whether that is maybe RGM or Pulte's, or, I mean, there's some layer to the process that feels missing.
RGM has looked at all of these, and they battled all of these down to what you see now.
Okay.
And that, my feeling was we had the construction manager, so I wouldn't have to bring all those details
And
to you
that,
guys.
I guess that's fair, I looked through this, and when I read it, it didn't feel like this had been vetted necessarily. right? It doesn't say that in the agenda bill.
And Jaleel from RGM is actually the one that put this final draft together.
Okay. This is all good information. So I guess one question I have is, since we're now, and this is just making sure we don't have another issue, if we're adding a exhaust ducting for lunch, a range, right? If we're adding a range, have we triggered any health permit issue for Contra Costa County?
No, it's not required.
Okay, because that can change all the finishes around the range and then the restroom, and I mean, we can go extremely fast backwards. So we know we don't need.
Yeah, they said it wasn't required, we just had to we even had the fire marshal come in and double check everyone on their side too. That was it, just put them in.
Because the building department won't tell you that the county health department needs to come in, they'll be totally separate. So I guess my question is do we know that definitively we don't need a county health inspection for having a range?
I can double check with the health department. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm asking so that RGM should probably be the one to know that, or the architect. I don't want to avoid having a permit needed for something that we asked for along the way and didn't think about.
Okay.
Because it can get expensive.
Okay.
And I know that one of the triggers, so that the board understands this, one of the triggers is if we're bringing vendors in to cook food or sell food. Now, I know we're not, right? But at the same time, there can be interpretations amongst folks that it becomes more than just a break room if you start cooking beyond the microwave. So I want to make sure we're not incurring a health inspection and then different selection of finishes and everything else because we're putting in a range. I'm all for having people be able to make their food, don't get me wrong, I just want to make sure we do this the right way so we don't spend a lot more money or delay the moving because of it. So that, I mean, those are the things that jumped out at me, and to answer your, I guess, again, that, I mean, that's why it wasn't spelled out that RGM looked at this, that's good news, and I agree with you. I just want to make sure too that somebody we hired is vetting through this so we don't see added fees, delay. I don't like the word delay. I don't like approving the word delay on this because that gets into the contract review.
Is there any comments from the public on the site?
Imperative that we can't just table this to when we have them all negotiated? I mean, how much more time? None of this is driving an occupancy or a trigger in our contract or?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it was mostly a technical point for the board to be aware of there were changes made, just as you just pointed out, to the original design. So that future generations will know that it went through. It just didn't happen on its own. And I think, the contract says the district will approve. I don't know that I don't remember if it's actually specified before, but we were doing it anyway.
Got it. So, I mean, I guess I'd be, since these are vetted, personally, I'd be comfortable with the ones that have been vetted and recommended. Not the ones that are still being negotiated, because I don't want to set a precedent for.
There's only to approve the ones that have already
Right.
have been settled and not yet in negotiation.
It's a good idea. Approve was what our legal counsel told us, so yes.
So perhaps we can approve the
Yeah, you could qualify.
the portion paid by LUSD.
For those that are,
And not the
Determine.
items that are
'Cause
still
those-
under
yeah.
negotiation.
well, those are the only ones,
Yeah.
If we approve the portion paid by OUSD, it means we're only approving the ones that have actually made it through the mill.
Right.
That's what I mean, yeah, that second column. Not the fourth column.
I'm comfortable doing that.
Your motion?
I move we approve the portion of the change orders as presented in the agenda bill in the amount of the represented by the portion paid by OUSD column, totaling $17,529.88.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Lorraine. We saw this last one, in 14-15 budget and development guidelines.
So the current year budget development guidelines are being recommended for adoption with the same proposed changes that were presented at the March 10th meeting. We're recommending eliminating the language English as a second language under item 12 and a reference to the deferred maintenance critical hardship funds under item 17. Currently, neither of those programs exist under the new local control funding formula that's been authorized by the state.
Questions from the board? Any comments from the public on this item? Further discussion from the board on this? Maybe we discussion last month, I guess.
I think I guess the follow-up to last month, my understanding is anything that has to do with the LCAP or LCFF, the local control, is really addressed, call it by items number 2 and number 3, kind of very minimal nature in the sense that that's our compliance. The change in our compliance process, as dictated, would then be, which is the LCFF and LCAP, and then inherently be embedded in how we approach this, as reflected, quote unquote, with coordination of funding from federal, state, and local sources, and implemented through the school plans. And that to me is, that bridges what we have to do, and the county's going to tell us if we do it right this time, nicely, I hope. And then if we have to make any adjustments to our plan the next year, because it would be more stringent next year in terms of recommendations if they had any, hey, you know, we know this is new, we want you to do it differently. They're going to tell us this year, or tell any district this year, versus next year it'll be more, you didn't heed our warning, or you didn't follow what we would like you to follow. Is that a fair? So instead of changing the way we list it, we're just saying our compliance will be in accordance with the federal, state, and local sources.
That's
Is
correct.
that,
This is the first year of our LCAP, so we'll
Yeah.
learn more as we go on.
But just to clarify, number 3 refers to the comprehensive school plans, which is the site plans, and the LCAP is different than the site plans, so it's related to the coordination of funding, but